as we're having the Mars-Pluto opposition, Beyonce's book comes out with her birth certificate in it. What did I say about Aries and Virgo placements this year? I said big year. She has an Aries rising. Where is her Mars?
In Leo.
Leo, conjunct what? The North Node. Do you remember what I said in the beginning of the episode?
Oh, you were going to give us
Katy
a surprise.
Perry is having the worst. Beyonce is having the best. You know why? Because she works all the time. She is not going to space for a publicity stunt. She's just at work.
Listen.
Hello and welcome. This is Down to Astro. I'm Chani Nicholas.
I'm Thea Anderson.
And I'm Eliza Robertson.
And we are recording this episode on Tuesday, April 29th. So do not come at us if something has drastically changed an hour after we finish recording, because this is the world we're living in. If you're new to this podcast, hello and welcome. This is a podcast where Thea, Eliza, and I talk about the biggest points of astrology that have just happened, what happened down here on Earth that perfectly symbolized, mirrored what was going on in the sky, what is going on currently, and then what is about to happen astrologically, and some of our predictions for what is to come. So the biggest thing that we talked about at the end of the last episode was the fact that Mars was going to make an opposition to Pluto. So that happened. And then at the same time as Mars making an opposition to Pluto, which is about the individual versus the collective, or the personal power that we have as opposed to or confronting a massive power structure. Because Pluto is an Aquarius, we know that the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, Haitian Revolution, American Revolution, French Revolution. So we know it's got a real revolution type of vibe to it. Revolutions take a long time. They need a lot of energy. They need sustained movement. They're not going to happen once. They're going to happen over years and years and years and years and years and years and years. So I know we're used to instant gratification and swiping until we get what we like, but we can't do that with a revolution. We can't do that with social, structural, societal change. We have to be in it for the long run. We have to be in it to win it. We have to be like 10, 20, 100 years out, thinking about down the road. Okay, so Mars opposing Pluto. This was the third and last time it was happening. The first time it happened was the beginning of November, just so happened to coincide with the American presidential election. So that was the first mark that we were looking at. And then the second mark was the beginning of January, and the third mark was just now at like basically the mid to late April point. So that was one of the things we were looking at to see like what was going to happen that was aligning with those times. Then the other thing that was happening at that same time was Venus, planet of women and femmes and art and beauty and luxury. And Venus in Pisces is said to be exalted. So it's kind of like women, femmes, beauty, culture, art up on high, perhaps, like really high up, like maybe in space. Venus was sitting with Saturn, which is still doing right now, and the North Node. So there was like this like amping up of something to do, possibly with women, femmes, queer folks, culture, beauty, But there was like this hard consequence that it was going to make or going to meet. It was this hard consequence that it was going to meet because Saturn is right there. And then the North Node is amplifying all of that, making it so big. So what did we have around that Venus exalted in Pisces conjunct the Saturn North Node situation?
We had a goofy space mission.
Women in space. I don't know if are you guys too young for Pigs in Space from The Muppet Show?
No, I know.
Oh, it sounds distantly familiar.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Anyways, it was very Pigs in Space. I mean, taking up space, as they said.
I just felt like it was so detached.
Uh-huh.
It was just so detached from like reality, struggle. And it was just like, I feel like it could have happened in like 2010, but it's like 2025 and people are like, listen, guys, like we can't feed our families.
Yeah,
You're just going to go to space for a photo op. And like the most brilliant moment of it was like when Gayle King had to board the spaceship and even she was just like cringing, like, why am I doing this? You could see just like the total doubt. And
I don't know. She was the most offensive of all of them. She was like, have you been to space? When she was upset about everybody being like, we don't care that you've gone to space for 5 minutes. She was basically like, you're not an astronaut. And everyone was like, neither are you, Gayle. You are a tourist in space. But yeah, it was this wild thing of like astrologically having Venus exalted, having it high up was literally like it took women up to space. And it was also, they are so out of touch. So that distance that, did you just say that, Thea? Is like that distance that like, how untethered from reality are you that you thought this would be aspirational for us? That you thought space tourism with Jeff Bezos's fiance, girlfriend, I don't know what their thing.
Fiance.
The man that's at the inauguration, like in bed with fascism, that she's kind of like heading this up, that we would think that that was fun, funny, interesting, charming, something that we would want to do. And then to be scolded by Gayle King when she's saying, have you ever been to space? And like the whole internet was like, no, Gayle, we can't afford eggs. Thanks so much for rubbing it in. It was like the exalted gone overboard and then just meeting that Saturnian, like, absolutely not. This is ridiculous.
There was another planet not quite so close to that trio of Venus, Saturn, North Node, but definitely still giving some influence. And that was Neptune, which had just moved into Aries. And I feel like Neptune can certainly bring glamour and like I think sometimes the glamour that is divorced from reality, like you were saying, Thea. And so like this as a photo op, this as a publicity stint, but it was so
the photos
extra.
very Neptune. Yeah.
But also the last time Neptune was in Aries, and we talked about this in our yearbook.
Yeah.
The last time Neptune was in Aries, it coincided with transatlantic like cruises, like transatlantic boat travel.
And you said something about space travel with Neptune.
We did conjure the possibility that perhaps there would
that
be
was
a
you.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, that was us.
You did that. That was your prediction.
Eliza.
I had nothing to do with it. You were like, oh, travel. There's something about travel. So as soon as Neptune moved into Aries, that's exactly what we got.
Like new frontiers of tourism.
Yes, that's exactly what you said.
That's
amazing. And the tourism is very Neptunian because tourism is based on fantasy, right? Mm-hmm. Like your tourism is going to somebody else's house where it's like somebody else's everyday lived reality, but we exoticize people because that's what settler colonialism has taught us to do. Yeah. And so tourism is based on this like white supremacist idea that there's like some, and very like racial capitalism, like we can escape this like intense grind that we're in because of the structures we live in by going to somebody else's house, home, situation, culture, and pretending it's a fantasy. Yeah. And just like being so voyeuristic and so vampiric.
And it's about escape. Like escape is one of the buzzwords we use for Neptune. So it's literally people escaping the planet in this case.
Yes. Go Thea.
No, the chart of Blue Origin launch that has Gemini rising. So it makes Mercury the chart ruler. And Mercury's at like 28 or like very late Pisces and about to move towards Neptune.
With
so it's like
the Venus and the Saturn
node. Yeah. So it's like,
so it's communicating the consequence and the heights and the,
Wait, can I have you? Sorry.
No, go.
My confession was, you guys know this. In a parallel life, what did I want to be?
You want to be an astronaut?
Oh yeah. Thea.
But this is the thing. I would
and
never,
host.
I know it's too many, but I'm not immutable. I'm not going to do it because I haven't done the work. That's why it's a parallel life. Like, you can't just do tourism. You have to there are scientists. Right. There are people who make this their like whole lives.
And there was an actual astronaut on board, and there was an astrophysicist on board. So it wasn't just all celebrities, but it was the celebrity-ness of it and the voyeurism of it and the billionaire adjacency of it. Like, Gayle King is best friends with the big billionaire, and she was like, Jeff Bezos is such a nice guy. And Katy Perry like launched her set list for her tour up in space. And we're like, really? You want us to think that this is somehow aspirational or scientific in nature when you're doing a free promo for your tour and your like ticket sales? Like, we see you. This is what, you guys, it's not 2010. Like, we have an internet now. Like, it's not, you're going to get pushback from the public. So one of the interesting things about Katy Perry's astrology, and I just want to say one thing before I say anything about Katy Perry and this whole thing, is that the real demon in the room is Jeff Bezos, because that man does not pay taxes. That man is a billionaire, and he has stolen money from the entire country by never paying taxes. He is a horrific boss, employer, empire holder. He does not pay a living wage, and he does not treat his workers fairly. So, you know what would be really impressive, Jeff Bezos, is if you've paid people a living wage, and if you had an equitable working environment, if you had unions, if you had all those things. That's what would be impressive to me, not launching your girlfriend up into space. So, A of all, it's the man in the situation that I really want to call out. Mm-hmm. The gatekeepers, aren't particularly interesting to me, and it's kind of gross. But also, I just want to like go back to the roots of this. Who's at the helm of this? And it's Jeff Bezos, and he is a thief, first and foremost, to me, because he does not pay taxes.
Yeah, if you look it up, it says Amazon is the best actor of tax avoidance, having paid a 12% effective tax rate between 2010 and 2018, in contrast with 35% corporate tax rate in the US during the same period.
So they found their way around paying taxes, which to me strips our society of what it needs. And so that he personally can hoard wealth and his shareholders and the like. So that's what would be interesting and like, like fun and feminist to me. Or if you had like childcare, or like, I don't know, anything for the people that work for you, and if you gave back at all. But I will also say that I'm about to say something about Katy Perry, and I just want to say about her as well. Again, I don't enjoy like dogging a bunch of women. If you are acting out of order, I think it's fair to say it. But I just want to say Katy Perry also survived, and I mean that _period, Russell Brand.
Yeah.
So to me, she's a survivor. Like, I don't know if she identifies that, but I'm just going to say like, and also the music industry at large, AL. So I don't know. I don't know her. It's not a personal thing. But I will say that she is an astrological example. Katy Perry has a Sun-Pluto conjunction, early degree Scorpio, which at the same time as the space launch in this moment was being exactly squared by Pluto and Mars. So to be squared by Pluto, like she's in her Pluto square Pluto, which is what everybody goes through around their mid-30s. Pluto has different, it's a wobbly kind of orbit. So it's different. Anyways, it can be a little bit later for some people. But she's going through a Pluto square Pluto, which is a something that everyone will go through. Basically, if you hit 40, you'll have gone through it. But her sun is being squared Pluto, which is not everybody will get that in their lifetime. That is a very specific to you transit. She's also a very Pluto person because she's Sun Pluto. And at the same time, we're having the Mars Pluto opposition. So Mars is squaring her sun and Pluto is squaring her Pluto and sun. And she goes up into space, gets dragged by the public for talking about how you don't know love until you go to space. And she goes on this huge dialogue, which was very Venus in Pisces, Neptune involved. Like, I feel so connected to love. Like, it was just like all this wordy salad about love. And then she also starts her tour, and her tour has just been apparently just really badly received, that the choreography is really weird and it's just very out of touch. So she is going through an absolutely abysmal Pluto square Pluto. And then the moment that gets like ratcheted up when Mars comes by and also squares her sun and opposes Pluto, we're all experiencing that. But that personally really, really impacts her. Later in the show, I'm going to talk about somebody who's having a similarly potent transit in a very different way, in a very good way. So it's not going to be bad necessarily, but you can see how like those things kind of loaded up in her chart to something is about like something bringing her back down. Like Pluto will pull you into the underworld if you need to be pulled down.
Or just back to Earth.
Thank you. Deep down in the Earth. Should we move on to the other Mars Pluto? I wanted to kind of start with something not
lighter.
as,
not as bleak.
Lighter and not as bleak. So let's talk about the bleak things that happened with the Mars Pluto opposition. So on Friday, April 25th, one day before the exact Mars Pluto opposition occurs, a couple of very gruesome things happen, which I would say is one of the key words for a Mars Pluto, is the fact that it is gruesome. It is often violent, volatile, like hard to battle. So there was a judge that was arrested by the FBI for basically carrying out the law. But what the Trump administration is trying to do is to let judges know that if they defy the administration, not uphold the law, but defy the administration, they are going to suffer consequences, which obviously is the mandate of fascism. They want judges to be obedient to the executive branch. So Judge Hannah Dogan, they arrested her because she let a defendant that was at risk of being deported by the Trump administration out a door that they said was like allowing him to escape. So that's like a massive, major red flag, sirens, all the things. And one of the things that we said was like Mars can kind of symbolize the individual, or like the lone ranger, or the somebody kind of doing the thing that is defiant often. Not that this was necessarily even defiant. It was, again, like upholding the law. So this judge doing something, like one woman doing something that then the FBI comes to arrest her for, when she is just literally doing her job and defending the Constitution. So that felt very Mars Pluto. It's also an absolute, like I said, like red flag as to like what happens when this is allowed to happen is we go down a very slippery slope that is really hard to come back from. I also just want to say that this is happening, yes, at a Mars-Pluto opposition, but all of this stuff about the courts and about academia is also happening as Jupiter is going through Gemini. And as we talked about last year, Jupiter in Gemini is a downgrade of anything to do with faith, morality, but also courts, law, and educational institutions, and also travel. But I think we can see it very loud and clear in educational institutions and the courts, and just how threatened they are. And obviously morale, like we're all, pretty kind of low on it most days. Okay. Then also on Friday, the Trump administration, I think they end up deporting 4 children that are US citizens because they're deporting their parents or parent. One of them is receiving cancer treatment. They rip this child out of their own cancer treatment to deport them. So this is a furthering of an absolute zero due process, which everyone is afforded under the Constitution. So it's a furthering of ripping the Constitution to shreds, defying the Constitution, defying the courts, defying the law of the land, and is a very awful, horrific thing to happen. Of course, to see children, again, that are citizens, but they don't even have to be US citizens, they do not have due process. Their parents do not have due process. And so those are some of the things that happened, again, like 24 hours before that Mars Pluto opposition, which just feels like, the government, the big like power structure trying to muscle its way through to like squash the people, the person, the situation.
Mhm.
And then I also was talking about the fact that the Luigi Mangione situation happened as Mars was stationing retrograde in December in a very close opposition to Pluto. So I thought that as this last and final opposition to Pluto was happening, that we would hear something from Luigi. And it just so happened that, again, we heard from him exactly that week that he was pleading not guilty to the charges. So he pled not guilty to all federal charges brought over the fatal shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in New York that happened last year. So the trial days are expected. Mangione's federal trial won't begin before 2026. So, we'll have to see what happens. But I thought that was an interesting, development in the case. And I'm not exactly sure like how that will transpire or affect things, but we were hearing from him at that point.
Yeah. And then the other major event that aligned just so devastatingly with the Mars Pluto opposition series was the attack in Vancouver. So this was at the Lapu Lapu Festival, it's a Filipino festival that happens annually in Vancouver. And a 30-year-old man plowed his car into a crowd of people, killing 11 people, and I think at least 20 were injured. So this happened on the day, actually within minutes, within hours of the exact Mars-Pluto opposition on April 26th. And we have a chart here that just shows how dominant this signature was. So it happened at 8:14 p.m. on the Saturday. Scorpio was rising in Vancouver at that time, which means the chart ruler, the ruler of the rising sign, was Mars, which is in Leo, exactly opposing Pluto in Aquarius. So when you have planets in the 10th, 4th, 1st, or 7th houses, they're known as the angular houses, and they're really, really dominant as far as the themes that are highlighted in that moment. So here we have
the strongest of them, the most public of them being the 10th house, which is where Mars is.
Exactly. And so acts of violence are sadly one aspect of how Mars can show up. And what really struck me, and again, this is just very heartbreaking and I wish it wasn't so, but what really struck me was the parallel to the last time Mars opposed Pluto, which that exact transit happened on January 2nd. But in the lead up to that, that we saw a man in his truck drive into a crowd of people in New Orleans on Bourbon Street, killing, I believe, 14 people. And that happened January 1st at 3:15 a.m. Again, the chart of that moment had Scorpio rising with Mars in the 10th house, that most public house, exactly opposing Pluto.
Yeah.
So it was
an awful correlation.
Truly. And just really, really sad. But definitely worth highlighting as far as how this astrology has shown up. I know I had been dreading this aspect.
Yes.
This was the third and final blow.
Yes.
And it was exactly on my ascendant to descendant axis.
Oh my God. So, are you okay?
I'm okay. All is well. But I'm glad this is behind us now.
Yeah. Like as y'all are all talking and about Mars, Pluto from like, there's like either the judges, you could do it Mars, Pluto in terms of like defiance, right? The kind of like, I'm going to defy the system or this oppression or something that is just, it's an overreach of power and I'm going to use my singular force, right? That feels to me very Mars and Leo.
But do you think that judge was, or they were just doing their job? Like, do you think that she was actually being defiant?
I mean, I think she knew there were ICE agents outside.
Right.
So I think she kind of knew what she was doing to redirect him, but it wasn't against the law. It was
right. against
maybe
Trump.
upholding the law is a risk. If
in this world,
I think so.
Absolutely,
under this administration for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So more of that.
And then
more of that. I think everyone, especially if you are in law, you should be risking everything. All of us should be, I've said this before, all of us should be risking everything. But if you've dedicated yourself to the law, then I think that means that you've dedicated yourself to getting arrested via holding it up.
There's a lot of law firms that are really capitulating to Trump, especially in New York City. Because
they're scared
of all the reasons. Like money, they don't want to get shut down, they don't want to get
sued.
But
why are you a lawyer? Or why are you a judge? Or why are you? I know this is just a ridiculous thing to say because
for money,
reputation.
But
I know. But like Eliza, as a former wannabe lawyer,
I know. I did say I wanted to go into human rights law. That wasn't going to make me much money.
Yeah. But don't you like somehow you're attracted? I know you do it because your parents or whatever. But like, if you like the law at all, aren't you interested in upholding?
If you respect the law,
I know, which obviously nobody in these situations do.
Well, some people do, and they are the ones getting arrested.
Exactly. So thank you for getting arrested. Thank you to any lawyers. Thank you to any judge. Thank you to anyone that is risking everything to say no and absolutely push back, because they're just trying every lever. They're throwing every piece of spaghetti at the wall. They're just seeing what sticks. So the more pushback they get, the better.
Yeah. What are the levers here? Like defunding.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Executive ordering, but then they don't stick, and then they're ruled unconstitutional. So it's just like lever after lever after attempt.
Right. And they have lost so much. We have to remember how much the Trump administration has lost or pulled back on. And also, I just want to say, like, at the Mars-Pluto opposition, Harvard did stand up to the Trump administration. So they started something that Columbia couldn't do. So there's also kind of that piece of, I know Harvard's a giant institution and has really problematic past, but there's that, like, the thing standing up to the bigger thing, I think. That's
and
in the room.
I think we'll see more of it. I mean, the first 100 days or however many days it's been have surpassed my expectations for how bad it could be, but I do think we'll see more defiance.
But then the other thing is that this Siena poll in the New York Times that rates how popular a president is, he has the abysmal ratings. And I read somewhere, I don't have the source, but I read somewhere where it's the worst ratings a president has had in their first 100 days since World War II. Which,
I thought it was like since his first term, which maybe
maybe. But there's that feeling of like, he is losing. I mean, he's causing absolute havoc. And but the team, they are losing. And the tariffs haven't even hit the American public yet. Like, our shelves have not gone dry yet.
Yeah.
And it is purported that they definitely will. So it can only go down from here. For them.
Before we leave Mars Pluto, I want to talk about the one thing I am somewhat thankful to Trump for, which is
we were wrong.
Changing the course of the Canadian
for
election.
Eliza.
Yes. It wasn't bad for Canada. What was horrible for America was not horrible for Canada.
Yes. So
Hallelujah.
As some context for people who are not Canadian, up until Trump, it was 99.999% sure that the Conservatives would win, that the Liberal Party would be decimated, that and our new Conservative leader, he's not new, but the Conservative leader, he's like Trump Jr. I mean, not quite as severe and probably not actually recognizable given how awful Trump has turned out to be, but certainly very much embedded in the culture wars, very transphobic, very homophobic, very, very worrying, truly to many, many people. And that was turned around because we started worrying about our sovereignty, because we started worrying about our economy and just the ability to stay afloat as a country. And so what we saw was Canadians banding together for the most part, and voting in opposition to Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party. What this meant, so in Canadian politics, we have arguably 4 major parties plus a 5th if you include the Greens, and 4 of those 5 parties are pretty progressive comparatively.
America, take note.
And then it's the Conservatives that are not. So what we have is often the left gets split up amongst like 3 to 4 other parties, and then the Conservatives for that reason might win. So in this election, where we know the Liberals have won, at time of recording, I think they're still counting ballots. We don't know if it's a minority or majority government. I think it'll probably be a minority government.
Do you want to tell people that don't know what that means?
What that means? Basically, in with the Canadian electoral system, if the Liberals win, I believe I might be getting this number wrong. I believe it's 171 seats in the parliament. It means they have a majority government and they basically have a lot of the power. It means that no other party could like could bandy together and defeat them if certain decisions are made.
Did you say bandy?
I said could bandy together. I don't know if that's even.
I was like, bandy. I don't know that word, Eliza. Teach us.
Bandy. I'm just talking fast, but bandy. I don't even know if bandy is a word.
Okay.
They could form a band.
They could form a band.
Yes.
And so if there's a minority government, which I think there will be, again, they had to stop counting last night, so they're counting as we speak, the votes, that is, then they can still be held to account by the other political parties. Now, one of the biggest opposition would, of course, be the Conservatives, who still did quite well last night, I would say. The parties that got decimated were the NDP and the Bloc Québécois. And the NDP, which is the more progressive, it has problems, but the more progressive major party, it actually lost so many seats that it's losing its official party status. So
oh my God, that's huge.
Yeah.
Well, that's huge. That's huge and not great.
But to end on a funny
the first
note,
time in Canadian history, isn't it?
It's the first time in my memory.
Yeah. I didn't know that could happen, but
I mean, like, because you need 12. And when I checked this morning, they had 7 seats.
Wow.
So that will change with the next election, because they'll all go back to they'll leave the Liberal Party basically. But what I wanted to share,
no matter how many parties you have, things just swing. They swing between more parties.
And that was not entirely. It was a good deal. Thank you to Trump being a dick. And he even tweeted yesterday during the election, implying that we should be voting for him as president. And
Wait, Trump did?
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
the most dysregulated human
usual.
on the planet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share one fun Mars opposite Pluto story.
Oh, great. Let's do fun Mars Pluto.
So Mars, I really do see in this lineup, I mean, at least the best side of Mars opposite Pluto is like Mars as the scrappy warrior, opposing the system, opposing like the system of power. And so there is one initiative in Canada called the Long Ballot Initiative. And basically these people are activists in support of proportional representation, or at least in support of electoral reform, which means they don't want anymore the first past the post electoral style, which leads for example, a party to have a majority government when they only have 40% of the popular vote. So that's a lot of gibberish. But what I'm saying is, if we were to reform the electoral system, the actual makeup of the House of Commons could better reflect the actual votes cast. And so this one party called the Long Ballot Initiative, this one advocacy group called the Long Ballot Initiative, they targeted Pierre Poilievre's riding near Ottawa, and they added, this is legal somehow, they added 90 candidates. So 90 candidates put themselves forward. So in Pierre Poilievre's riding, you had a ballot. It was literally like a meter long, full of 90 candidates, and he lost his seat. He did not get reelected. And this, again, could shift as the final votes are tallied, but I think it was partly due to just maybe the sheer confusion of having like literally a meter long ballot. Like, imagine going to the polls and you have, it's beyond my screen, but you have
again, America, take note. That's literal strategy.
It's fun. It's a fun strategy.
It's fun. Yeah, it's good.
And he lost his seat again at time of recording. So I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing that happened like a day and a half after the Mars-Pluto opposition, which we have to remember the sun, which the sun is going to represent leaders of all kinds. The sun was just entered Taurus and was making a square to both Mars and Pluto. And we just had the new moon that also just made just after the exact Mars-Pluto opposition, the People's Pope passed.
Yes.
So that also felt, and Pluto is the god, the deity associated with death. Mars is also, we could say, in a more kind of maybe destructive way, can be associated with that. But a Mars-Pluto opposition, again, is like intensity or like, and then the sun kind of bumping up against it and squaring the two definitely feels like a leader having a crossing, we could say. And there was like, a T square in the sky, I think. So that happened. And there's two things about it. There's both what was happening astrologically in the sky as the Pope passed, which Eliza's going to take and talk about. And then there's also what happened right before he passed and what was happening in a person's chart who shook the Pope's hand, who may well be the Antichrist. At least that's what I've officially called him.
I think it's
on social media.
I think it's valid.
Okay, so do you want to start with the time of his passing?
The astrology, sure.
Yeah.
So Pope Francis died at 7:35 a.m. on Easter Monday morning. And what we saw,
right? That's also the thing. It happened on Easter Monday. I am not a Catholic or a Christian, but I know enough to know that that's when there's a resurrection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that when Jesus comes back? So the Pluto being the planet of resurrection, being super prominent in the Mars-Pluto opposition, and then the Pope, the dude who is like the head of that myth, right?
It's
the
Jesus
head
on
of
Earth.
the church. Is that true?
Maybe God on
I
Earth.
don't know.
I'm not Catholic.
We're
either.
not good. We're very
someone help us.
Thea, do you know this stuff? Anyways,
so he's meant to be God on Earth.
Or like a translator of God. Anyways,
maybe divinely selected, but I don't think.
Okay.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're being very heretical or something. But
we are though.
Okay. So him passing on a day that is about death and resurrection is wild. It's very poetic. I actually think it's really beautiful. He was an old dude, so like he lived a good life. And just to say, like before he left, he basically said free Palestine.
Yeah. He was, I think he really, from what I understand, again, not Catholic, not super well-versed in this stuff, but from what I understand, he genuinely cared for actual people and was, I would say, probably the most progressive pope that we've had since popes.
Right. So it is a loss in terms of institutional figureheads being at all progressive, because he was also, for his clout, for his status, progressive on issues to do with queer and trans folks and I think women. And I think he was as progressive as a pope can be. And also he was like for poor folks and Palestinian, so like the marginalized.
Yeah. And I think also too, with him being like a religious leader, like it's so stunning because it's like, I don't know, there's something very like, I was like, this is like global and sweet. There's like people across the globe mourning this person. And like, even in my town, I could see people filing in and out of like church buildings and stuff. And like, I really think that there's something stunning about somebody who's not an elected political figure. Like we don't have that many, but people who are spiritually elected people, they have like a different mandate than is to like war, instead of to do war and to do
war and economics.
Yeah. Not saying that the Vatican doesn't do that.
Yeah, we don't.
But I'm not saying that,
right.
But it's ideally.
Yeah. We're not standing the Vatican.
Have you read a Dan Brown book? We're not doing that.
I actually haven't.
Okay. Nor have I.
but I get the reference.
Okay.
So what was so stunning about the moment that Pope Francis died, when you cast a chart for where he died, Vatican City, the moon is often considered to be like a transmitter of the astrology. So when the moon sidles up to a key planet, it just shines the focus there. And the moon was on the midheaven, so at the culmination point in the sky, exactly conjunct also Pluto. Pluto again being the planet of the underworld and of death. So Pluto, the midheaven, the degree of the midheaven, and the moon were all at 3 degrees Aquarius at the moment of the Pope's passing. And, the angles of the midheaven, just so people get it, if they're not used to ticking a chart around, it moves fast, like within minutes.
Yeah.
So it really was at the instant of his passing that this was
Yeah.
crowning the sky in Vatican City.
Right.
Again, that's opposite Mars.
And the moon is the exalted ruler of the Taurus rising.
Exactly. And so that was happening opposite Mars, which is then on the IC, because that's always opposite the MC, and squaring the sun in the early degrees of Taurus. So this aspect that we've been talking about for the first however many minutes has been of this episode, 40 some odd minutes, was front and center.
Yeah.
And we have JD Vance to thank.
We have JD Vance to thank, and his chart is... Eliza, what were you saying about his chart?
Oh, I was like a little bit joking around, but his sun is exactly opposite Pope Francis's moon. So like together they would form a full moon, but and his Saturn is squaring it. So it just seemed like there were little signatures in his chart that were kind of antagonistic to the Pope. And we do know that he was one of the last.
I think he is a signature of being antagonistic to anything to do with God, which is why I call him Antichrist. Yeah. I also thought it was, the Pope's chart, I think is fascinating because he has Moon, Venus in Aquarius, and he's known as the People's Pope. Yeah. And if you're going to be the people's anything, you're going to have an Aquarian signature. And if people love you, it's going to have a Venusian situation. And if we're going to talk about the people, we're talking about the moon in terms of when we pull charts and when we're looking at charts, like when Eliza was talking about, whatever the moon's doing is like pulling focus. It's also talking about the people of the moment. And so the people experiencing a death of, a leader, and again, the people's like feeling coming forth and like pouring forth in a lot of different cities. The Pope's and the Pope is a Cancer rising. How good of a rating is this chart? Do you remember?
I think it's A rated. It's not maybe not double A, but it's A rated.
So it's good. It's not a super early Cancer rising. So I'm going to take it. The moon being the ruler of this chart, the moon being in Aquarius, which is very like Princess Diana to me. She was a Cancer rising. I'm sorry, she was a Cancer sun with a moon in Aquarius, and she was the people's princess. And so this being a Cancer rising chart with the moon in Aquarius, also with Venus there and him being the people's pope, just feels very well lived out, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. R.I.P.
Okay. Yeah, R.I.P. And
did you say this already, that he was in a Saturn return?
Oh, yeah,
no,
I forgot to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, he was finishing his third Saturn return. He was officially done the exact of it, but not officially done Saturn in the sign. So, yeah. Okay, so then the other thing that I've been kind of throwing around in terms of ideas, and it's much more extensive than this, and none of us here are, what do you call it? Money economists?
Economists.
Well, we're not economists, that's for sure. And we're not like astrology economists, or I don't know what they call themselves.
What do they call themselves?
Financial astrologers.
The financial astrologers.
Thank you. That's simpler. It's easy to remember. We're not a financial astrologers. We do base, our business off of astrology, so there's a connection. But anyways, it's not any of our areas of expertise. But I'm just so struck by the fact that Uranus takes 84 years to go through to go through all 12 signs to do a full orbit. So the last time Uranus was in Taurus, it was definitely in Taurus around the beginning of the Second World War. And we're just hearing a lot of like correlations between now and the Second World War. And Uranus is at the end of Taurus. It's going to be at the very end of Taurus, and it's going to change signs in July. So it's getting to the very end of Taurus. And when a planet is at the end of a sign, everything goes wrong, A of all. But B of all, it is like a kind of cataclysmic feeling because it's ending something and it's going to begin something else, and we don't quite know what it is, but it's definitely like important, the endings. And we can say that since Uranus has been in Taurus, one of the things financially that we can pin to this is cryptocurrency. So Aval, we have if you want to call him a president, a person sitting in the presidential seat that has his own cryptocurrency that is like, becoming like uber wealthy by selling his own cryptocurrency. So there's that piece of it that's, I'm pretty sure, completely illegal. But also somebody who's just like pulling every tariff lever rug from underneath the world order, financially speaking, as he can. As Uranus, the planet of disruption and chaos, is at the end of Taurus, which is a sign that is all about
money,
material. Yeah. Money things, like literal material things. So I just want to say, like, there's a lot more to be said about the tariffs and how it astrologically aligns, but it does feel very, we're at the end of something. Like, are dollars going to, like, what is the currency? Is he trying to like flip everything to be into cryptocurrency? Like, what in the God's name is happening? China's like, okay, try me. Put another tariff on me. You're not going to get anything from us, and your people aren't going to have anything to buy. And so it's just like this absolute chaos globally on a financial level. And Uranus, the planet of chaos, is at the end of Taurus, the planet of finances.
Yeah, I mean, it has the potential to change the whole world order as we know it until now financially. Like, if people are not trusting the US to be the ones whose currency we hinge everything on, if we're not trusting a government or an administration that is clearly so volatile and so obviously not deserving of anyone's trust, then
right.
I think like the ultimate irony is if the world order actually ended up reorienting around China instead of the US.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that would be a good thing necessarily, but it would be, the ultimate like fail for Trump. What I wanted to say on the tariff piece, just is like to bring up another Canada anecdote.
Please.
Let's
become a Canadian podcast.
Slowly but surely. Jagmeet Singh, who has now stepped down as leader from the NDP, that's that more progressive party. He has now stepped down because his party was decimated last night. But in the campaign, one of his suggestions was to bring back the victory bonds. So these were bonds that have only ever been used during wartime to fund the Canadian government when we were at war. And so now...
And that's World War II.
It started in World War I, and it definitely happened in World War II as well.
Yeah.
So that's that throwback to the last time Uranus was at the tail end of Taurus and entering Gemini. And so this isn't going to happen because Jagmeet Singh was not elected, but he had proposed going back to that strategy of essentially getting the Canadians to buy into these government bonds that would then fund the Canadian government in our war against the U.S., effectively, our economic / trade war against the U.S. What I will say is
just so like,
it's
as a Canadian,
I know,
living in America, like, you just like, what? Canada and America? Like, it's
at war.
So wild to hear
that.
It's beyond comprehension.
Because America was always like the mean big brother, but a big brother nonetheless.
Like, so
this
mean
is how
now.
we think of you all.
Yeah, just bully.
But now
bully,
it's true.
Bully.
Now we're like disowning territory. But what I will say, so in World War II,
not invited to
the family reunion.
Yeah, never. Yeah, never again.
In World War II, again, this was the last time that Uranus was in Taurus. That strategy made $12 billion for the Canadian government, which was significantly more than what we made through like income tax, for example. So it was actually quite strategic and I think successful then.
Yeah.
But it is just wild that we are literally bringing back wartime measures to like deal with this situation against our most long-standing ally. It's just very weird.
Yeah.
I wonder too, like, also, I'm not an economist. I don't really understand a lot of this, but here's the thing. I feel like when we talk about money systems and all this feels very like speculative and kind of up in the air anyway. Like, where are we going to be? Is our currency going to be okay? Like, are we going to be in a trade war with China and then lose it? Are we going to be able to buy stuff?
No.
Are we going to and then not to even mention, so it just almost feels like we're on that precipice of like just putting the world order in a blender, alienating all our allies. A lot of these alliances, even though that they're like trade alliances, they're crafted on terms of peace that were forged after World War II, right? So it's like we'll help rebuild the world economy, right? The US could like manufacture goods. It helped the US economy, but it also helped Europe for the most part, right? So like we're gonna help try to bring some stability back. But it just feels like all of that now is just like being thrown again, and just see like where we land. And it feels very like earthquake tremor Uranus at the end of Taurus.
And then we've mentioned this last time, but like because of Russia and the United States and Ukraine, it's like, is Europe? They don't know if they're going to be at war again. Right? As we're like mirroring astrologically an 84-year cycle, the last time which Europe was at war, like Europe's like, are we? Are we not? Like, we don't know. So there's also that. I don't know if that's just obvious from what everybody just said. I just wanted to pull that out.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, the consequences are bleak all around, really.
Yes. And we're filming this again, like I said, right before May Day, May 1st, which is International Workers' Rights Day. And there's massive protests again scheduled all over the country. So they are losing. Fascism will lose. It just will. It cannot sustain. It cannot last forever. It never has. Like it can't. And we are way more at least educated at this point than we have ever been. And I just think there's too many of us that are unwilling to abide by it. And it hasn't even been 100 days, y'all. Like we have been caught on our back foot or whatever that expression is. And we were not trained and prepared for this, which is the
we have to take a crash course.
Yeah. And like just the civil rights leaders that are still alive and have passed, rolling in their graves, I mean, it's just like, nothing got carried over? Okay. That's what capitalism does. It lulls everybody into like sleepiness and an inability to sustain the movement. But I think this is like a massive wake up call to like how important it is to never take our eye off the ball, because the opposition doesn't. All right. Segue.
Should we segue? What are we going to segue into? Some of my pieces? I took some culture pieces. Because I want to do this. I want to do this for the culture.
Yes.
Hi. So, okay, the two things I was kind of watching recently were we're on the verge of Met Gala-ism. And I was really excited about the theme. I'll probably never go to the Met Gala in my life, so let me have my joy. I know.
Never say never. Hey, Anna, Thea would like to come to the Met Gala. Even though we know it's exclusionary and ridiculous in the face of everything, we still want to go.
Can we get a comp ticket over here?
Yeah.
$50,000 worth. But I was really excited. I'm always excited about these things on a cultural level because the themes tend to play out. So I'll make a quick prediction. So this one is all about Black dandyism. And first of all, there's some really good like YouTube videos on it. Like Vogue has them. They had a whole issue. A$AP Rocky's on one of the covers. It's just like a lot of Janelle Monáe's talking. Just like a lot of just like Black titans of style. Right? Yeah, they're hosts. They're on
Janelle,
the board. Pharrell, like they're all like contributing to like what a Black dandy means and dandyism, which is defined as like, rewriting narratives, right? So, but from the point of view of fashion and style, and really from like a liberation point of view, if you can use clothes to liberate yourselves, right? Because it's like, I may not have access to this, but I can style it this way and I can then present it and then form something that's like an expression of who I am. So it's like, I was looking at the chart for the Met Gala, and so that's going to happen next Monday, so in a couple days, first Monday in May. And I use the 6 p.m. like official start time, which has Libra rising, and it has Lilith right on the ascendant.
Oh, so come on.
Love. So I was just like, oh yeah, like if we're going to open up the gate, if the gatekeepers like Anna Wintour Vogue let Black folk in, like that's just for so many years it was like Andre Leon Tiali, like just holding it down and not really getting a lot of recognition, but he was a style titan,
or pay probably
icon. Yeah. But so like if you want to think of like gatekeepers, but also people at the gate, outside the gate being let in, like I'm so excited to see like what kind of narratives are going to be rewritten, what style is going to do, what Rihanna's going to wear, like just so pumped and excited for like just a little brief cultural escape.
Yes, I cannot wait. And so, okay, so the important thing about it being a Libra rising chart is that Venus is ruling the moment. Venus will be newly in Aries, having just come off a conjunction with Neptune in Aries for the first time in our lifetime. They make a conjunction once every probably 18 months or something, but they have never before done it in our lifetime in Aries. And so I call Venus in Aries the Rihanna signature because she has that signature. She has Venus in Aries, and she is just so much an embodiment of Venus in Aries, which is like her handle is like bad girl Riri, and like Venus in Aries is in its exile or detriment. So it is, if it's going to be a girl, it's going to be a bad girl, or if it's going to be a girl, it's going to be like a watch me now. It's also Marilyn Monroe. Anti whatever the thing is. And it's going to be hot. It's going to be like eye-catching. So Neptune being the planet of illusion and dreams and fantasy and just like glamour, and Venus being the planet of fashion, ruling the planet, being right in the 7th house, it's like super visible with Neptune for the first time. And this being the first time that they've ever done this, it feels like let's change the conversation. Let's change the visuals. And instead of just stealing from Black culture, let's name that this is Black culture. Let's name that fashion is always been directed by Black folks, specifically in this country, Black American folks.
Yeah. And then what does Venus do next? It'll sextile Pluto.
Yeah. So
it's
powerful.
like it's doing so powerful. And I like the politics of it. And like, it's just going to be, that configuration is just so like dreamy, but also like we're here, like undeniable kind of.
Yes. And I'm
just excited.
At the same time, who has just launched her tour?
Beyonce. Mother.
Okay. So as we're having the Mars-Pluto opposition, Beyonce's book comes out with her birth certificate in it.
What? I did not know that.
What kind
you didn't know?
Of
it broke
Scorpio moon, Virgo sun would release her birth certificate? And Aries rising.
Aries rising.
Very end of Aries rising.
Really? Very end, 29 degrees, which I think I trust a late degree rising more than an early degree rising, because if it's late degree rising, it's more often than not the birth will be recorded a couple minutes later than it actually happened. So more likely than not, it's going to be a little bit earlier. So if you're a 0 degree rising, that's a little bit more suspect to me than a 29 degree rise. But if I have your birth certificate and it is stamped approval, you give me your time of birth from your birth certificate, I got to use it unless somebody is in the room saying, no, it happened way later than that. So that's where I'm going to come from. It's a 29 degree Aries rising chart. What did I say about Aries and Virgo placements this year? I said
they're going to be active
year. Thank you. So Beyonce's book comes out, has her birth certificate in it. She has an Aries rising.
Yeah. Just quietly there.
Yes. Makes her a Mars ruled chart, Mars ruled ascendant. Where is her Mars?
In Leo.
Leo, conjunct what? The North Node.
What degree? Do you remember?
It's early.
It's 0 and 1.
Oh, so it's getting Plutoed as well.
Do you remember what I said in the beginning of the episode?
Oh, you were going to give us
Katy
a surprise.
Perry is having the worst. Beyonce is having the best. You know why? Because she works all the time. She is not going to space for a publicity stunt. She's just at work. Okay.
Listen.
Yes.
You got to put in that work with the
TikTok were surprised that I am part of the Beehive. I don't know what is surprising about that. We started our show on. I am critical of all billionaires. Nobody gets past me on that, but I am obsessed with Beyonce's music. I just cannot help it. I am transfixed. I am under the spell. Her witchery, her sorcery does it for me. I'm here. Okay, so this is the thing that only last night, like again, we're taping this on the 29th. Do not at me. Last night was the first concert. She is having her Mars return. Mars is the ruler of her chart. Her Mars is conjunct the North Node, which spells fame to me. Just does. It's like massive drive for what Leo things, performance. Yeah. It's by sign, not by degree, by sign, trining the ascendant. Good for me. Like that's a good signature for me. Now, who is being showcased in this show? Blue Ivy and
her
Rumi.
Children.
Her
so
Mars
fifth
is in
house?
the fifth house of children.
Yeah.
She's having her Mars return, a Pluto opposition to her Mars, once in a lifetime transit. That not everybody's going to have it. It's to the ruler of her ascendant, which is going to shift something about the direction of her life or her children's life or something. And she opens last night and Blue Ivy comes out and does the dance of her life, like incredible. And then Rumi and Blue are surrounding her. And she's having a Mars return. She's Mars ruled. What do you have to say about this?
I was like, when I saw those pictures, I was like, we're doing dynasty things now. This is like family business here. Like the children are going to be.
Always, but yes.
All right, we have Mama Tina in there. Now we got Rumi and Blue Ivy. Like, love it.
So that is a Virgo. Mother has a Virgo sun, so always hardworking, but it's in the sixth house of work.
I know.
So it just doubles down on the work. Has a Scorpio moon conjunct Uranus. Exact. Now that we have the time of birth, it's an exact conjunction with Uranus in Scorpio. So it is, give me a volatile emotion. Give me an emotion that is going to slap me across the face and wake me up. Give me an ability to emote in a way that is going to be so startling to anybody that receives it. It will be damaging.
I mean, I'm still not over lemonade. Like, come on.
Nor should we be. Do I like the man that she spends her life with? I don't.
It gives her art. It gives her art. I think
a single Beyonce could give me really great art. I think a divorced Beyonce could give me amazing art.
I don't disagree. Listen, I looked at JG's transits. They're not good.
Well,
So wait, what degree?
As Katy Perry and Beyonce illustrate, the transits are good or bad depending on how you work at them.
Yeah, that's true.
So her moon's already been opposed by Uranus.
She is in her Uranus opposition. That is such a good point. That's the other thing I wanted to say. She is in her Uranus opposition, which everybody gets to at the beginning of their 40s, beginning to mid 40s. Uranus opposition is about getting free. Thank you, Eliza. It is going to be disruptive in some way, shape, or form to something to do with family, home, because her moon rules the fourth house of home. It's already happening, but it's not complete.
Is her moon Uranus late Taurus?
It's 27.
Scorpio?
27.
Oh, well then there's time.
It's now.
It's now. And Uranus will be back. It's going in July.
Oh yeah.
It will be back November 7th.
Yes.
So she's got time to divorce.
And I have a prediction. I have a Beyonce prediction. March 3rd of 2026, something massive there's something so big that's coming next spring for her because she is having a total eclipse on her sun.
Interesting.
Exact.
We'll stay tuned. Mm-hmm. March 3rd, 2026.
March 3rd, 2026. Listen, if you're listening, Beyonce, any of us will give you a reading at any point.
Listen.
At any time. Okay, so but what I wanted to say is that she's an Aries rising. And what are we having this week? Venus conjunct Neptune in Aries. It's not
cute.
on her ascendant, but it's in her first house. And what is she giving us all weekend long? Visuals. Every feed, I don't care if you like her, don't, whatever, you are going to see her visuals, and you are going to see everybody dressed up as a cow, somebody, girl, boy, them. And if there's a cow, them signature, I think it's Aries.
Yeah.
It's pretty yeehaw.
It could be Taurus, but I
Taurus. You're right. Okay, Taurus.
But like Taurus is the cow. I think Aries is the cow, them.
Well, she has so much.
And Sag is the horse.
Cow.
I mean, I'm stretching
anyway.
I'm stretching
and a lot
I'm
of
stretching it.
One of those three.
But cowboy is very like independent, gonna go. It's very
Aries-like.
Racist and weird. But if we're just taking it like her version, like the black,
we reclaim
American, cow
culture.
Cowboy Carter tour. Anyways.
Oh, I like this prediction.
Thank you.
Listen, you can surprise me anytime. Because how did we not talk about this in our prep?
I know.
The most obvious.
I've been meaning to do her chart, but let me tell you, when I say Mars has murdered so much of my ability to function, I have been so sick for 3 weeks. I am on day 17 of I'm getting better every day, but oh my God, I have late degree cardinal sign things. And that Mars at the end of Cancer obliterated me. All 3 times Mars was at the end of Cancer, obliterated me. But this time was the worst. It was like nail in a coffin. I was like, oh, I've got a cold. I mean, 17 days, y'all.
Oof.
Disgusting.
That's slow moving.
Oh, God. And now it's in Leo, and I'm just like the reverberations.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A transit will come, and then you just like, you have to
You're
deal
still
with
left with the wreckage. That's how
And the Pluto opposition was still so in the recent past.
Yeah, and it's still within degree of my late stage.
Yeah.
Late stage cardinal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have we gone through everything?
Did you?
I didn't get to talk about sinners.
Mm-hmm.
Sinners?
Sinners. Is that my text that's coming out? Sinners. Ryan Coogler's movie.
Yes.
Set in Mississippi.
Oh my God.
1932. Mississippi Delta.
Terrifying.
So it's like, okay, like also too, I don't do scary. Like she cannot do scary. I can't do a jump scare. Thought I was going to have to walk out in the first couple minutes.
Are you serious?
I endured. Because let me tell you, who are the scariest people? They're not the vampires in this vampire flick. It's Jim Crow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Jim Crow. Also, the vampires are scary, but
but that's same, no?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same. And I think, so the movie is, Ryan Coogler's film, it has Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld. It's got like, Michael B. Jordan is playing a set of twins. So there's like all this like amazing duality. There's so many layers of things going on. There's like, so it's hoodoo, it's horror, it's Jim Crow, it's vampires, it's blues, it's hoodoo. Like I said that already, but I can't get over it, just how well that depiction was. And so really like just the idea of like dancing with the devil but also just like trying to make space, like trying to make a space for enjoyment and culture and in an environment of oppression. So those are the themes of the movies. I don't want to give too much away, but I could talk about it for a long time because it really was. So there's some scenes in there that are just so beautiful and so moving and so transportive. But the movie itself has like broken like box office records, in particular for horror genre, if you're going to put it there. There was some weird reporting, like Variety had a weird article the first week of like, is it going to make a bunch of money? We don't know. And it ended up just like surpassing, for Warner Brothers film, it's like their most profitable film in a long time because they've had a lot of busts. And this is like, it's an original. It's not a Marvel movie. It's not some like branded Lego kind of thing. It's like its own original story. I don't know.
Right. And didn't Ben Stiller tweeted like, what the fuck kind of headline is this?
Yeah. Like they're doing well. This is a success. This is like, and then also, but it's fine because like if I know my people, like when like we're gonna go to the theater in droves. We're gonna go see it twice, 3 times,
That's
4
right.
times just to like up the ticket sales. And like I went on a double date to go see this movie.
Fun.
I went with my friend and she was screaming and I was like, you can't do that. I will leave.
I'm not a horror person either, but I really love blues music, and I love the trailer, so I'm gonna go see it.
Yeah,
I will see this kind of horror. I will not see gratuitous horror.
Yeah.
Well, there's some good. It all serves the story. Let's just say that.
That's what I mean. But, like it has to serve something.
Yeah. And so I just we're in if you look at 1932 Mississippi, I looked at Jackson, Mississippi, but like the vernal equinox, I just started with that for that year. It's like we're in the nodal return. So the south node was in Virgo then, and the north node is in Pisces. So it's interesting to see like what kind of art forms, music, transportative, like the whole Pisces things is coming out, but also Virgo being very witchy and all this lore associated with
so that's a return for the time period that the film is about.
I don't know what month it took place or anything like that, but if you just use
that's interesting.
It was going through. And so I was just thinking about like what it means to even just like bring your culture from wherever you came from, if it's, African, and then it becomes carried through during slavery. And there's all these beautiful scenes about like just like culture thriving in the midst of like sharecropping and opposition, oppression, violence, the KKK, like all this kind of stuff is like quite front and center in the movie. So a lot of those themes, I think also too, you can kind of be like, oh, so like we're also not that far away from it in a lot of ways. Like we are, but we're not. And
it's
so
less than
I think
100
that's
years.
also, yeah.
But also this time being
a
mirror of that's the time this administration wants to go back to.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to put into like a couple minutes, but to just like as a quick snapshot, like of the just like the like what saves you from despair, like what saves you from that. And some people might find that in religion, but the main character finds it in blues. So
in art.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings us back to dandyism and the Met Gala.
Exactly.
And also Beyonce's Beyonce's Cowboy Carter, because she's throwing back to so many different layers and lifetimes and time periods.
And when I was looking at like also too, like this 1932 time period, or the movie takes place, and then there's so many themes too about the Great Migration. So I was like thinking a lot about that, about like just after World War I, when you had Uranus like in Aries, like just rapid movement of people, and how that also influenced culture. So you had all like Black people in droves fleeing the South and like going and populating northern cities and giving us the Harlem Renaissance, or choosing to stay in the South but needing to create their own space. So there's just like a lot of fascinating things that if you look at astrologically, you're like, oh yeah, that's
and I'm not as well versed in this, but in terms of Canadian history and Black folks also migrating to Canada,
the Underground Railway. Yeah.
That would be before, but
yeah, the Underground Railroad. Like, I mean, that was where you went to Canada. I mean, what did Harriet Tubman famously say? She's like, I'm not going to rest till I get to Canada because I don't trust the North. She didn't even trust the North of the U.S., right? She was like, we're going to deliver people. I mean, she ultimately did settle in New York State. That's where she ended up with the rest of her life. But like, that was like her freedom trail, was trying to get people to Canada.
And do you know what yearish that was, Thea?
Oh, girl, that's what year she did the Underground Railroad? It's like, I mean, it's coincided with the Civil War, so we're talking 1861 to 63.
Yeah.
So that's a Neptune and Aries.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is Neptune and Aries. She was a nurse in the Civil War. I mean, I have a whole Harriet Tubman aside, but
let's do that. Neptune and Aries, kind of. Nurse in the Civil War. It's very Neptune and Aries.
And also led the first military mission.
And was so psychic, right?
Yeah. like a whole diviner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have her chart. We don't have her year of birth.
No.
Right.
We don't even have a year.
Yeah.
Really.
So we can kind of just go off the time period of which she was really moving or the things that happened.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Met Gala looks show up and if they're embodying that Venus Neptune conjunction and how. So
Me too.
I look forward to hearing about it when we get back.
This hasn't been named yet, so I'll just say it. Is there not potential for it also to go off the rails as you have a bunch of rich white people like dressing up in black dandyism?
Yeah, I
like
mean,
Neptune
that seems
can be messy.
weird to me. Yeah.
So
I don't know how they do that.
I don't know, but I don't think it's just black people invited. So I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
but
I know. I think that I feel like the paying homage versus appropriate, like I think when you can trace it to the reference and what you're referencing, I think it's like opens it up. It's almost like
couldn't be hip hop, that's for sure. we wouldn't want to see that. We wouldn't want to see white people doing that.
We'll see what happens.
Personally.
Just saying, Neptune can get real messy. So
yeah.
I know you're right, Eliza, to be skeptical.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to certain people's looks.
Yes.
Just keep it there.
So now we're going to look ahead and look at the most outstanding signature of May, because we're at the end of April. So we're going to look at May. And May's outstanding signature is, drumroll please,
Saturn is moving into Aries.
Good God help us. Okay, the good, the bad, the ugly. Who's looking forward to Saturn in Aries?
No.
Thea's grinning.
Thea's looking forward to Saturn in Aries.
Not on a collective level.
Okay.
You could be selfish.
You're looking you're looking forward to it. Oh, because it's going to move out of your 7th house?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
But that's real. That's real. I was so ready for Saturn to leave my 7th house a few years ago.
So we could say that mutable rising signs, but especially Virgo rising, this might be really like a little bit of a relief for you. Although you're going to have to do your taxes like nobody's business.
Yes.
Listen. But I feel like those eclipses in Aries prepared me.
That's true. It's not going to be so startling.
Yeah.
Okay, so Saturn moves into Aries on May 24th. It's not been here in 28-ish years. It'll be here off and on, mostly on, but off and on for 2.5 years. It will be here from the very end of May to September 1st. So we basically have June, July, August with Saturn in Aries. That will be the opening paragraph of the first chapter of this book. Saturn will then move back into Pisces for the rest of the year and then come back in, I believe, February of 2026.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Beginning of 2026. So we're going to have 3 months of this journey.
Of a teaser.
2 things. A teaser, trailer situation. 2 things. May is going to be Saturn at the last degrees of Pisces, which, as we've been saying, is a really important moment. The end, especially of a slow-moving planet like Saturn, the end of a transit through a sign, or at least the first ending, is going to give us that feeling of like, ooh, something's wrapping up, or something's going, or something's really slow, like decrepit even, or like Thea calls it the exhaustion moment of that planet. So what does it mean to have Saturn exhausted in Pisces?
I feel like the boundaries get worse somehow.
Oh,
Because, I mean, Saturn
God
in
help
Pisces
us.
is already a little porous. The boundaries are already a little soggy. But at the final degrees, I feel like it's tired. It's like, it's tired of holding up that wall.
Yeah. Other things, I feel like it's been very emo for my taste.
Oh, really?
Just incredibly like...
Said the Virgo rising.
Yeah.
It's been too much.
It's just very emotional, just a lot about like surrender, like if you can't do it all, maybe just lay down. And it's just very, it's like a lot about forgiveness, a lot about deep, like feeling other people's emotions deeply if the boundaries are starting to crumble or starting to like hold you. You can kind of, I feel like then you do become incredibly porous in Pisces with Saturn. And Saturn's there trying to, it's still delivering its obstacles or the things that get in the way, but in the forms of like these deep emotions, like this kind of,
Is it like extra jello-y? Extra sea urchin, jellyfishy. It's like there's a structure, but it's so wobbly. So we might feel the extra wobbliness of the things that we would like to depend on, but aren't quite there. And then what say you, like we're going to be back as Saturn starts to move into Aries. I think the next time we record might be right before Saturn moves into Aries or as it's moving into Aries.
Or right after.
Right after. So really we're focused on the ending of something that we're going to circle back to. We'll circle back to it in September. We're kind of going to, this is how I kind of also see it. We're going to put something down in the area of our chart that contains Pisces in a way, in terms of like building something or structuring something. Maybe we're going to like, I had to put this down for a second, and then we're going to come back to it in September and we'll finish it up for the rest of the year, September, October, November, December. But we're going to have to like pause something, or something won't quite get finished in the area of our chart that contains Pisces. We will have there is the North Node there. We will have an eclipse in September there. And that's when Saturn will come back. So it's kind of like we put something down at the end of May and something really big gets picked up again in September. So you might notice that.
I will say though, like something I will tell clients is, especially if they are going through a Saturn return, or if they do have Pisces somewhere prominent, they have hopefully put in the work for the last 2.5 years. So
I mean,
it's
you gotta
true.
Hope.
It's true that there might be,
if you're going
to
cram for the exam now, you're kind of fucked.
That's it. So there might be a finale of sorts in September that coughs back up, like another
kind of like to be continued.
It's like the lake monster rears its head once more. But I feel like they've hopefully have already done a lot of contending with that lake monster. They know what it's about. They know what they need to be accountable around, and they know how they need to put up their grown-up pants around. And so
I'm literally realizing how that's going to happen to me. I'm just figuring it out now. I can't, but I'll come back in retrospect in 2026 and be like, so Saturn was here and I had to do this thing, and then I had to start it and finish it between September and 2026.
Yeah.
Ugh, God. Okay. Sorry.
I guess I just want to tell people that if you've had a really hard couple of years, I don't think it's going to be bringing up anything that you're not already familiar with. I mean, there's an eclipse.
Right. If you have a lot of mutable placements.
Yeah. It's like you get another chance to sort this thing out.
Yeah. It is the end. It's not going to be new. It's going to be like the finishing of the thing.
And
sometimes can be the hardest though.
Yeah. Especially if and if you're tired of doing it and you're like, can we just do new and different? And you get.
That's a good way to say that May might feel like that. I'm tired of doing it. Can I have something new? But we can't really until the end of May, and then we get new.
And new is not necessarily good. Like if you have lots of cardinal, like a couple of us on this call. So that's
and
if
you
just
survived Mars in Cancer, and then Saturn comes into Aries,
right?
Pummels.
So if you have
Jupiter's coming. Jupiter is coming.
I'm pinning everything on Jupe.
But if you have Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn prominent in your chart, so maybe if your sun, moon, or rising are there, or another prominent angle or planet,
midheaven,
then Saturn's coming for you.
Yeah.
And that just means that you have to face reality in that, either in that area of your life. And we all have to. So no matter what rising sign you are, no matter where your Saturn is, we're all going to have to face reality in a new part of our chart. So this does impact all of us.
Just remember Beyoncé.
Yeah, it works out.
Saturn and Libra. She's a good.
Yeah, she has a Saturn in Libra. She has an excellent with Jupiter and Venus.
I know.
Her work ethic couldn't be better. I mean, come on. She has an exalted Saturn,
I know.
Venus in its own sign with Jupiter there. It's just like blessed to build structures. And Saturn's coming into her first house and she's done the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's always done the work.
Mm-hmm.
The work is done.
It might still be hard.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Saturn isn't ever really that soft, especially not in Aries, because we haven't said this yet on this episode.
Thank you.
But Saturn is in its fall in Aries. So this, even if you've done the work, this will be a bit crunchy and uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me.
Harsh.
It's hard. Like both of my kids they're 7 years apart. So Saturn's whereas they both have very dignified Saturns. One is an exalted Saturn,
and one is Libra.
Libra, yeah, and then one is like Saturn and Cap, and they're getting their like angular.
You're looking forward to this. You're gonna have Saturn square and opposition in your household.
I know, and Saturn is my 5th house of children. Rules my 5th house of children. So it's like we'll see.
Good luck.
We'll see.
Listen, but they'll come into their own like.
Exactly.
They have to become the boss of themselves. And
their Saturns win over
their Saturns win. Their Saturns win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, right? Like when I think about the Saturn into Aries, that like for 2 of the placements that are angular to Saturn Aries, Capricorn and Libra, they're pretty well dignified.
Yeah.
So then like being in relationship to a Saturn and Aries kind of feel. Like, what does it mean to be like, okay, are the structures in society there to support who I am? Or do I have to like forge ahead and make my own? Or what does this mean? And I think about that all the time because I don't know that. I mean, I think this is, if anything, Saturn and Aries feels like that the work to be done does feel very like a pioneer.
Yes.
Like what it means to like
Cowboys.
Put a lot of house. I mean, I'm reading Little House on the Prairie right now.
You
that's
are.
my life at night for bedtime story. And I was like, this is hard. Like they have to build a house. And like there are whole chapters about them like building a house, but they're first out the gate and that's why they have to do it. I don't endorse that book. There's a lot of problems in it, but I skip over them when I read them.
It's all built on genocide of indigenous people. Yes.
And that part, I was kind of like coming up with a good metaphor of what it means to like, okay, if I'm first out the gate, there's no structure under me. And maybe Saturn in Aries is trying to really try to create that as the first sign in the zodiac Aries is. And it's that cardinal fire. But maybe
there's nothing to go on.
There's nothing to go on. And patience is required. Time is what Saturn does well.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So
the long haul.
But Aries hates it. Yeah.
Aries can't stand it. Can be very uncomfortable for those of us with Aries placements. But Neptune is there too. So maybe like the saving grace is like maybe it'll just contain Neptune or it'll be like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or whatever this Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. The Jekyll and Hyde situation where it's like you lose all your marbles and then it's just,
there's nothing to catch you.
Those 2 extremes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What positive thing can we say about Neptune and Saturn being in the same sign? And they're both going to just hang out at early degrees. They're going to almost make a conjunction in August, which is very important. They're going to make the exact conjunction in 2026, but they're eventually going to conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries, which is such a primal, like guttural expression of life emerging. And so for these 2 to meet up at 0 degrees of Aries with foreshadowing in August and then exacting in 2026, it does feel like we are conceiving of something very new and that the structures are very different and the need to like dream and be creative and take action and nobody is going to come to save us. Like if we're going to take that kind of pioneering, as problematic as it is, vibe, no one's coming to, there's no government, there's no this lawlessness. It's like no one's coming to save you. So if that is true, what is the conception? What is the thing that's being begun? What is emerging? What is the new life thing that we're
and the
preparing for?
Chris and Nick Diggin Best did the Saturn Neptune episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's good. You need a day because they go into, I think, all of them for like this whole century. But the last time we had Saturn Neptune was 89. So like you can get like what? That was the fall of apartheid. So some structures that do need to dissolve can dissolve.
Yes, and we would love another fall of apartheid.
Exactly.
That would be amazing. So let's visualize that.
Yes.
And what would the world look like if that happened? That is at the crux of so much. A lot of people could not imagine the fall of apartheid in South Africa. Of course, a lot of activists were only imagining that and only organizing for that decade after decade after decade. But the mass public was just like, that's how it is.
I love that imagination.
Yeah, that's
that like sacred imagination to reshape actual world things. Yeah.
My AirPods just died.
It's almost time. One of mine flew out of my ear, so I don't know where it is.
Okay, great. So we have something really abundant and sweet and hopefully very helpful coming to you to help you through Saturn and Aries, and you'll know about that by next month. So we hope you enjoy that and a couple more surprises that we've got coming up. Okay, so we will see you all back here next time where we will talk more about Saturn and Aries and then the giant thing that's coming in June that is going to save us all, I promise.
That we're all looking forward to.
Yes, please.
I'll see you at Cowboy Carter.
Woo!
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.